start with ownership in Plato's Symposium, being presented by Sunshine, who was a first-year master's student at UVM. Studied at Whitman College for his undergraduate degree, where he majored in classics, history, and philosophy. He is very interested in the Virgilian reception, the philosophy of friendship, and ancient approaches to texts. So, welcome.
Ownership in Plato's Symposium. Okay, so the Symposium, just to get everyone on the same page, in case you haven't read it in a while, or in case you haven't read it, is a gathering in the ancient world where men drink, talk about things. But specifically, Plato's Symposium is a party set after a festival where Agathon, the playwright, wins first place. They're celebrating Agathon, and then everybody gets together, everybody's hungover, much like many people in Boston are. And the day after, they're like, let's not drink, let's talk about love. And every character gives a different account of love, and they emphasize different aspects of it. One of the most focused on of the dialogues, well, of the speeches of love that are given, is the Athena speech, in which she defines love as desiring a very particular thing. So she says that love is the desire that the good is for oneself forever. That's like the most literal translation I could go for. I'll fiddle with it in a bit. With this definition, then she starts, essentially what she's saying is to possess the good. However, how does one do this? Blah, 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 blah. Ladder of love, and that's what most scholars focus on. However, there are some problems in the way that people conceive of the Athena's conception. So, or rather, there are problems that arise because of how we define this type of possession. And that's why I want to focus on in this definition. One of the problems that can happen is that if Eros' whole thing is to possess the good, then Eros becomes about using other people to ascend the ladder. And that's problematic. We don't like inherently conceiving of love where, you know, the person in front of us that we claim to love is just a tool. It's just an object for another gain. Another one of the problems is it displaces the individual because it is not, what's it called? You're not entirely, it's not like God's love towards us, which is like without constraints and without conditions, unconditional love. And because of that, people are uncomfortable with this type of love. Anyway, so to fiddle with the translation, I changed the infinitive into a gerund because love. Okay, so the desire of God being for oneself forever, and this is how I like conceiving of it. It is the desire of good for oneself, always, forever. The IA is not necessarily forever in the extent of time. It can just be like a consistent renewal, and which comes up later in the dialogue. So the reason I want to focus on this definition is because across the Symposium, there are different ways of conceiving of possession. And from the beginning, when Socrates arrives at the Symposium, Agathon asks him to sit next to him, so that, touching you, I may enjoy the knowledge that arrived for you on that porch. So, Agathon here is making a claim about enjoyment, about like being able to enjoy someone's knowledge through mere physical presence, but he's also making a claim about how knowledge arrives to people. He's saying that knowledge arrives for you rather than you acquire it by your own volition. It is not a, I grab knowledge and take it for myself. It is knowledge comes to you. Pro este. It is a like forward-standing soy for you. And this comes up like this is consistent within the Symposium. knowledge is talked about in dative terms rather than in genitive terms, and not necessarily in possessive terms with verbs of holding, like echo, but with verbs of existing, like einai and proeste. So, moving on. Socrates also denies the type of wisdom that he has. He says that he doesn't hold it because it is ephemeral, like a dream. Just like it is hard to remember dreams, Socrates' wisdom is fleeting. Like the day it goes away. Because of this, there's already, before Socrates begins telling us the speech of Guillotina, everyone seems to be on the same page at least. No one raises claims against Socrates when he makes these claims. Everyone seems to be on the same page that knowledge is not something that you hold on to forever, A, and B, possessions that you hold have different degrees of, what's it called, control that you can have over them. And this is where I want to live. So, I'm going to introduce a distinction of different ways that you can possess things. I have my pen, and this pen is mine, it's my possession. If someone takes it, it could be stealing, or I could be lending it to them. However, this computer here is mine only in the sense that I am using it right now. It exists for me. And it is mine because fairly clearly I am using it, but once the next presenter is on, it is no longer my computer. Similarly, when you have a partner or spouse, usually you say that is my spouse, my partner, but you don't think of it like you think of the pen most often. You think of it as this is their own individual, and because of that, I do not have control over them in the sense I have control over my property. Now, so, what genitive? So, I introduced this distinction of possession because possession yes, please, here we go. So, the possession that is established here, it is through the genitive. The to einai is an particular infinitive, the infinitive is in the genitive, and because of that, eros is of something. And then, after all this, sorry, I'm skipping around, but, so, Socrates asks, what type of genitive relationship does love have towards its object? Is it the love of something or of nothing? And to explore this, he goes like, is it like parentage? Just like when you have a parent, that is your parent, that has a genitive relationship in Greek. So the genitive there implies a certain type of possession. But what type of possession is it? And it is a genitive of origin is like probably the best way we can explain. And Socrates makes it clear, I don't mean to say that it is of some mother or some father in the same way that you are from some mother or some father. You do not come out of it. The thing that is love's object is not born out of it. And he uses this in order to actually deny Agathon's conception of love. Because Agathon's conception of love begins with saying that like attracts to like. And because like attracts to like, then love possesses what it desires. Because love wants beautiful things, it must also be beautiful. Because like attracts to like. Socrates denies this, he says, no, actually, you're wrong. And because, by saying that, he's like, let me explain the genitive relationship that love has with its object. And he established a separative relationship. After establishing that love has a genitive object, he's like, okay, it is not like the father or the mother, it is not connected with birth, it is not connected with likeness, but it is of something, for sure. It is certainly a genitive relationship that you have with love. Now, I already mentioned this. Okay, so back to this. Genitive of possession. Love is of something being for you. The dative of possessor here is, I think, very emblematic of the way that knowledge was being used in this sentence. So, the knowledge exists for you, just like this computer exists for me, and because of that, it is mine. However, the good, it is not mine like this pen is mine. By establishing Guillotina's definition of love in this way, then suddenly we don't have to focus on the way in which love can use someone as an object, because the desire of love is to have something be in its presence, the good specifically. But by making it a relationship that doesn't define control hierarchically, then it is suddenly about trying to establish yourself in a position and in a space where you can enjoy the fruits of the good. And that is a very different material relationship with love as an object. So, oh yeah, that's this. Now, all of this to say, this is part of the beginning of a project, because after defining love this way, you can actually start to connect different aspects of the dialogue. So, in all of the dialogues reference each other and add definitions of love or take away from what the other dialogues happens. All the speeches have the same. So when Phaedrus starts, he's like, there's one type of love, and Pausanias is like, actually there's two. And then it continues being a back and forth of trying to hone the knowledge, or trying to hone the object that they're talking about. And Diotima's conception seems to be completely separate from all of them. But if love is the desire of possessing something like you possess, like I possess this computer right now, it is about establishing yourself in an almost temporal, beneficial relationship with the good, then Aristophanes' conception that love never finds fulfillment can be integrated into the way that Diotima talks about love. Because Aristophanes' lovers never actually come back together. They are always separate. Even if they are together, it is only a semblance of what was rather than what is now the case. Agathon's conception that love produces good things can still be brought together, because famously in the tricky line, Diotima says, what is the task of love? It is to give birth in beauty. And the generation aspect that exists in Agathon, because Agathon's love is a poet and it is a generator of things, specifically beautiful things, continues within Diotima's ladder of love. The other three speakers refer to different participants in love. Eryximachus, the medic, brings a layer of harmony and says that love is actually a system that brings things into order, and if love is to exist in an equal relationship with the good, then that can also be baked into what Diotima is talking about. And Pausanias and Phaedrus are talking about different parts of the love equation in the ancient world, the Erastes and the Eromenos. And because one focuses on the lover, the other one focuses on the beloved, and you're talking about love as a system of relating one's desire for someone or something, then this can also be integrated in Diotima's thought. Because Diotima's love is all about improving the person, and Pausanias's and Phaedrus' love are also about improving in different ways, but the lover or the beloved. Thank
We have time for a couple of questions, and then there'll be time at the end of the session for everyone to engage each of the different presenters. But if there are any questions now, please feel free to ask them.
So the name for the good is the same as the name of the playwright. Can you comment on that?
So, there's a funny joke at the beginning, where there's a joke about good people attending other good people's feasts, and it is very much a play on the word that, oh, we are good people attending the good person's feast, specifically Agathon, specifically the good. Aside from that, I think it is a historical accident, because Agathon was a real playwright, and he did have the name of the good. And every character in the Symposium, aside from Diotima, is tested historically. So we're safe to assume that all the men in there just existed and were players that Plato could bring something out within the dialogue for their separate aspects. Aristophanes is a comic playwright, Agathon is a tragic playwright. All of these things are used in concert within the Symposium, but I don't think Plato's doing anything with the good Agathon and the guy Agathon. Because I think if he's doing anything, it's more playful and jokey and funny rather than like philosophically dense. Although, not to say that philosophically dense things cannot be friendly. Yes.
Thank you, Sunshine. I love your reading of the genitive and the dative and how they're reflective of different ways of understanding love. My question is, in the way that the characters interact with one another in the symposium, do we see any manifestations of those different types of love? We see the fourness, that's a better way of putting it. We see the dative type of love represented and the genitive type of love.
So this is why I like ended like this. These are ways in which I think we can tie them together, because I really wanted to make sure that I could establish very clearly that this is what's happening with the Athena. I think so, yes. I think that Aristophanes' conception of love is all about the separative genitive. Not because necessarily he's using the genitive all the time, but rather because of how he structures the story about how love is conceived. Love is about separation in Aristophanes. Whereas Agathon's love is about the way good things come about when love abounds. And so there's a dativity to it, but Socrates basically argues against him, saying that you're being confused by the good things that love brings, rather than the fact that love doesn't have those things. Love might bring them about, but love doesn't have them. This is, I think, part of the thing that becomes possible when you read the Athena slightly differently. Socrates isn't wholesale denying Agathon's speech, rather saying, you're confused about a particular thing at the beginning. You're saying love attracts itself to the thing that is similar to it. I don't think that's true. But he doesn't deny any other thing. And like the Athena's love is also a poet. She uses analogies of poetry within her speech of love, and Agathon is like, love is a poet, period. So yes, I hope that answers your question. The other ones are less clear to me.
Thank you so much.